Okay, hello everybody. I'm here at South Beach Psychiatric Center. I'm here to demonstrate the simplest power line panel. My name is Javier Vargas, and I'm a simplest technician for 20 years. I've been working in the industry on the power alarm, security, and access control systems. And I've been through many cycles of the company, from Grinnell to Simplex and now to JCI. We were lucky enough to be able to do this work for you guys at South Beach Psychiatric Center, and I'm going to be showing you the Simplex panel. This is a 4100 ES panel. It's the latest that we have on Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls enables the power line system 4100 ES. It's composed of 3 bays on this one panel. We got what's called the CPU or display module, the unit voice, the voice unit, and your display for all your speakers and devices. So I'm going to take the time, I'm going to take apart the panel. As you can see, as soon as I open the door, we have a contact on the panel that will bring the panel into supervisory condition. So please disregard this. On the first bay, we're going to find what's called the CPU, and we find what's called the power supply unit. The power supply unit feeds all your NAC systems, which will be all your speaker systems and visuals. And also you got your TV1 block, which is the one that connects all your addressable devices, your pull stations, your smoke detectors, and your fan shutdowns. This whole thing will come from your loop. This also has a 24-volt auxiliary power at the bottom of the panel that will allow me to connect auxiliary devices at 12 volts, 9 amps. The next portion of the panel is Day2. Here we're going to find everything that's got to do with voice. We have a phone cards, and we have a voice command module. This is the unit so you can make your calls throughout the building. The next bay, what it covers is all the input-output points that are created outside the system. If you need an extra point, we can program those points to do different commands on the power line system. This will be my I/O cards, and also it's going to show me what floors we can contact over the phone. We can actually call individual phones, or we can call the whole building on one single push of the button. Okay, so the next stage will be to show you how to maneuver on the LCD screen of the panel. The screen is composed of a power alarm button. In the event of an alarm condition, you will see the power alarm acknowledge starts flashing red. In the event of a supervisory condition, you will see the supervisory button start coming into alert. You also got, oh my God, a trouble condition will be to any cut wires or anything that happens in the field. The panel will see it because it takes every 2 seconds it starts pulling from the loop to see what's the event or what conditions those devices on the network are. In the case that something happens, it will report a trouble condition. Okay? Now, we are able to disable points of the system. We are able to enable points in the system, and we're not able to put points in the system into what's called an install mode. If it's people working on the system and there are points out there that need to be disabled because the electrician or whoever is working on that system, we don't want all those points to be showing on the display because it will populate the display to the max. So for that, we can actually take those points and we actually disable them and put them in an install mode. Install mode means that whatever you put in on that group, it won't show on the display as a trouble condition or the supervisory condition or alarm condition. It will just simply disappear. They will put aside until the time that you think they're already ready to be put back online. They have been fixed, they have been installed or whatever they did, and those points will go back into the system, and now you are clear of all those trouble conditions. Now, I wish I could be able to show you how to acknowledge a trouble condition, so for that I will have to create a trouble condition. So right now, I don't know if we can do that in the building because it's occupied, correct? But in the event of alarm condition comes in, you will see the fire alarm, there's a supervisory. All we have to do is acknowledge the supervisory condition. We can read on the display what that condition is, and if we go ask for more info, it will tell me exactly what the node on that point is. It will tell me exactly what device is connected to it. In this case, it's an IAM. And it's going to tell me if that IAM is online, is disabled, or is an issue with it. So we can go investigate. That will be a supervisory condition. Now, supervisory conditions of this panel will show to any system other than the fire alarm system. I mean something that is sprinkler system. It's not the fire alarm system itself, but the sprinkler system is a life safety equipment that's connected to this system. So if something like that happens, an external system connected to this fire alarm panel, it becomes a supervisory condition. It's a system that is not part of the fire alarm system, but is connected to it as part of the life safety system. And that will be your sprinkler system. So in the case of supervisory condition comes in, we can assume it's a sprinkler system issue. We can send the engineer to check the condition and it'll clear out the supervisory condition. And troubles. In the case of a trouble, it's because either a device lost an IP address, a device lost its address, a device is disconnected, a device has got a broken wire or anything, it will come in as a trouble condition. Again, to see the trouble condition, all we have to do is press the trouble acknowledge. More information will go and tell me where that device is located at. It's going to tell me what kind of point it is. How many of them are on what node is connected to. Okay, when I'm saying nodes, the node will be the fire alarm panel that is gathering that information. We got many nodes because we have different we've only got so many points that this panel can handle. It can handle 256 points. So if I have 100 points, I will have to get a second node to carry the rest of those points. In a facility like this, we have more than one node. I believe we have 7 nodes. Okay, so each one will carry a portion of the building, whatever it is, devices, speakers, or any auxiliary devices that's connected to that floor that will be looking at these nodes. Okay, so since we went through the trouble conditions and how to acknowledge the trouble condition, the next step will be to see all these auxiliary buttons. These auxiliary buttons can only be programmed as a request by the property owner or the owner of the building. They decide if they want this as a walk test button. They can decide to put this as a silencer for the piezo. They can actually decide to do whatever they want with this button. They can choose that. The next thing will be the third bay. In the event that we need to make a phone call, a call to the building, we will need to audio the audio controls. If you follow the audio controls, we have a command center active. That means that the center for the audio system is online. The lamp test, if we can create a lamp test, it will show me all my modules are working. Local speaker. A local speaker will allow me to open the channel for the local floor. If this panel is on my first floor, my local speaker will only sound to my first floor. I can choose the floor that I want to speak to in case of an emergency. Or I can choose to say an all speaker talk. If I do an all speaker talk, it will allow me to communicate with the whole building. Let me demonstrate that. By pressing the all speaker talk, it will start enabling all the floors until this one is ready to talk. There you go. Now I've enabled my ready to talk. Testing, please. Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is only a test. Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. After I try talking to and I hear myself on the speaker, now I can go back and disable all my speakers and I cut the channel of communication with all the floors. One by one, they will start resetting themselves to go offline. Right? There it goes. Awesome. Okay, so let's go back to this portion of the screen. I'm supposed to teach you how to enable a point, how to disable a point, and how to put points on construction mode. Okay, the plate on this allows me to call what's called an ID node of points on the system. Our system has different points, that regular points and what we call pseudo points. A pseudo point is an imaginary point that doesn't exist, but we need in the programming sequence to create these points so we can actually create our equations. So a pseudo point is not a real point, but it's an imaginary point that we can actually use in our programming to work on our equations. And then we have a real point, an ID net point. An ID net point will be something that we use in our smoke detectors. The number one will be the node, then the second one will be the point address and the type of address that we're looking for. In this case, we can call network 1 and we can use ID net 2-2 and enter. Of course, there's nothing like that. Net 1, enter. ID net 1-55, enter. As you notice, I call not network 1, not 1, and the address is 155. 155 corresponds to B1 first floor by room 307 a smoke detector. And it tells me it's a smoke detector. Now, if I want to disable this point, all I have to do is call up the point and just disable it. And when I want to enable that point, I will call the same point and just enable it, enter, and they auto. Because when we take this point out of the normal condition and I enable it, I actually got to bring it back and make it an auto point to go back to normal condition. That will be enable and disable a point. Okay. Number 2, I would like to show you now how to access the panel at the level of the operator on this side. The simplex or Johnson Controls technicians will have the highest level, so you can actually make changes and modifications to the panel according to an FPA 72. The local technical assistance, or the guard that's checking at the bottom, doesn't need that type of access. So for that type of access, we are recommending a 3-33 access, where the username is 3 and the password is 333. That will allow you to convert points, disable points, put them in construction mode, or do whatever you need to do without actually making major damage to the programming of this panel. So to demonstrate, I'm going to change myself to the level for me to be able to access the panel and make some changes. So that level will be level 3. So I'm going to show it. You hit the menu button, change access level. We're going to do an enter. 1 for login. I'm going to enter my password. Password is 333. I will do another enter and my access is granted. I will clear this, and now I'm able to make some damage on this panel. The next thing I'm going to show you is how can I change the time on the panel. Again, we're going to get back to menu. Menu again is set time and date. Set time and date. I'm going to do an enter. Okay, press info for more. If I press info, it allows me to change the time, which is 8, by going left to right, increase or decrease. And the same thing for the time, the date, and the seconds on this panel. So since we have the right time, and now you know how to access that point on the panel, I'm going to conclude with that. It's 8:55 in the morning on August 28, 2020. So that will be good. The next thing I want to show you is this panel has 2 types of logs. Those logs, the logs we have is called fire alarm logs, and we also have the trouble logs. To demonstrate the fire alarm logs, I'm going to go to menu. I'm going to go to next, set time, display historical alarm log. This will bring me to the last 600 events that happened while this panel was connected. So alarm display log, I'm going to do an enter, and if I go next, it will go from the latest and it starts going backwards. So if we go next, we're going to see that at one point we got B4 second floor smoke detector in front of room 604. It went into alarm. It was a smoke detector. It's also giving me the address of M178. M is the node, 1 is the ID net, and 78 will be the address of that device. Okay, if I press more, it will tell me what day that happened and what node it came from. That will be the fire alarm log. Again, we can go back up to 600 events. FIFO, first in, first out, 600 events. It will keep recording as long as the machine is going on. So let's go for the next one. Access level, next, set time and date, we did that. Alarm log, trouble log. We're going to check for the historical trouble log. So for that, we're going to do an enter, and it's going to start showing me. The beginning will be the last event that came into this panel as a trouble condition. So if we go backwards, then we can actually see which one was the last one that came in. Okay, so on Friday, August 28, which was today, we have operator 3 sign in into this panel. That was the last trouble conditions that we created. When we come in with level 3, we logged into this panel. That is a condition that this panel is going to show me who was in this panel on this day and at what time I was logged in. Level 3, it could be anybody in the building because everybody has access to level 3. Okay, so let's continue with the menus. We had to change also the daytime, the historical log, the trouble log, and then select a points. We can actually select a list points where the programmer will create list points for all the devices of the same type, and that will be like all the fans will be put in one list. All your smoke detectors will be put in another list. All your circuit 8 speakers will put another list. We create this list in the event the operator need to disable them. You don't have to disable all the points one by one. You can actually create a whole list and disable the whole list for you to keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. So we create lists for elevator rooms. We can create the list for all those elevators to actually just stop in a floor for whatever reason we need. Or we can create a list for all the police stations not to work, of all the sirens and audibles and visuals not to work on the floor because we're working on that floor. So we don't want this to happen. We can create a list, put all those devices there, and actually take the list away, disable it, and enable it as you need. The next thing, we can check the display software revision level on this. That will tell me the job number of this panel, the revision that we're working, and when was the last time this panel was updated. It's very important information for the person that's actually trying to do an update on the system. So for that, we need to have the program at home, on site, on a CD with the engineering. We're going to continue with the levels. Print reports. We can actually print reports of the historical alarm log, or we can print report of the trouble log. Again, it will give me the report of all the troubles and all the alarm signals that we receive on this panel. Even if we pass the 600, there should be recorded on the CPU, and that information should be sitting there ready for us to withdraw whenever we need it. So all you have to do is create the logs and print it. In this case, there's no printer attached, so we cannot create a log to print. But the software is there. We're just gonna need something there to print it to. Walk test. Walk test is one of the main features that this panel has. On walk test, what we're doing is the panel is, in the case of a testing, the semi-annual, the annual testing of the fire line system of the building, most of the time we will use the walk test feature. The walk test feature allows me to actually test the system without all the bells and whistles, without me reporting every signal to central station for the fire department not to come here. So if we enable walk test, it will also come back as a trouble condition on the system, but we know what trouble condition it is. The main thing is that with this, we're allowed to do things that otherwise we won't be able to do in an occupied building. Testing in elevators, testing of the fans, the testing of the audio and visuals is a lot of hassle in some sites that require not to do any of that noise or do it after hours. In the case that we need to do this, we can put the system on walk test, and we allow me to do the work without bothering everybody. One feature is that at the end of the day, we need to put that baby back online and get it off walk test. I'm going to continue with the display. Walk test, enable remote downloads. That's only for the programmer. And network, display network node identification. Network node identification allows me to see what node I'm working on. In this case, this is not one of 4100 system enhanced, and that's my version 2 in this building 1. So basically, the panel will give you all the information, very specific point. The panel will give you all the information you need. 4 points that are in trouble or an alarm condition. The panel will give you the specific information on every device that's connected to the system. And it allows you to disable, enable it, put it on walk test, or you can put it on install mode. Install mode, so it won't be on the trouble condition list. So basically, this is what the fire alarm panel is all about. 3 bays. The main unit, the first bay with the display panel and all these features. The second base is for my voice, and the third phase is for my inputs, select all my floors and devices. This concludes my presentation on the 4100 ES panel. Now we're going to continue with stage 2, which is TSW and the other side. Thank you. Okay, hi. On my second portion of the training for this site will be the TSW. TSW is a device that allows us to connect all the nodes on the site to a specific point. There's this one screen. It basically is a computer that allows us to get all the information from all the nodes coming in. That's including all the events that any other nodes on the site will report to this one panel, and it allows you to do the visual on the screen so we can see what's going on instead of us going to the panel and trying to manipulate all those keys. So basically, on the TSW, you're going to need to sign in. To sign in, the username for this one unit is, username is 5, the number 5, and the password for this site is operator 5 with a capital O. So I repeat, the username will be number 5, and the password will be operator 5 with a capital O as an Oscar. Okay? Now, on this system, what that allows me to do is to see the same thing that I see at the main control panel. It allows me to see the fire events, anything is priority 2, supervisory and trouble conditions. Supervisory alarm and priority 2 conditions are the same conditions that we see on the panel. In the case of a fire event, the fire alarm control panel will report that event and immediately send that event to the TSW. For the guard on site will be able to see the event coming live at the same time that's coming on the panel. So for this TSW, the operator, the only thing he can do is acknowledge, should be able to call the engineer on site and guide them to the location of where that device is. This allows me to see every point on the building, the exact location and address. It will allow the fire department, in the case of an emergency, to come in and look at this device and see where the condition needs to be addressed. In the case of a fire emergency, the fire department will have to see the event. After you've been acknowledged locally, they should be the ones to silence the panel and investigate what the condition is on that device. It's not for the local tech to investigate, it's for the fire department to investigate that device in the case of an emergency. The same thing as in the other panel, we can also look at all my reports. We can see the reports of anything, any event that has come on the 600 events that this panel allows to have in memory. The same thing will be with the trouble conditions and supervisory conditions. Nothing has changed. So to do this, all we have to do, if there's any conditions existing on the panel, like on this one trouble condition, we can see the trouble condition on the display, and if we hit on it, we can actually see what is on that point. It allows me to see what the status of the point, what's going up is missing, if the node is missing, if you have power, if the battery is low, if the card on the panel is faulty. It will actually tell me all the information for the technician to go and troubleshoot that device just by looking at the display and hitting on that one device in trouble. It will give me all the information that I need, and it's ready to go and troubleshoot it. Pre-existing or pre-alarm 2, those conditions are for devices that need to double check its alarm condition. In the case of elevator bay, those smoke detectors, we had to, before we go into alarm and report that to the panel, it would have to retest itself to see if that condition is true and valid before it actually creates the alarm condition that the panel is ready to. So the next will be the supervisory conditions. Supervisory conditions will relate to devices that are life safety equipment connected to the fire alarm panel. It doesn't have to be the fire alarm panel, but it could be the sprinkler system, it could be the access system, it could be different systems connected to this one panel that's extra, that's not part of the fire alarm panel, but it becomes a supervisory for all those conditions. So like I say, if we have a sprinkler head goes because of a heat, this panel will notice that the external system, the second fire alarm system, is in alarm or is in trouble. It will report that condition as a supervisory to this one panel. The trouble conditions are the conditions in the local panel with devices that report into it. We're talking about pull stations, smoke detectors, dark detectors, IMs, anything that has an address and that's communicating with this panel for an alarm condition. For this one, the status control tab, it will give me everything that has to do with all the nodes on this system. It will give me what is the condition and where they're located. This one panel has no graphics. We have the historical log. They allow me to see all the points that came into trouble. It will keep the last 600 devices in trouble, and we'll do the FIFO. First in, first out. We'll get 600 devices in memory. Then we have the network tab. The network tab allows me to look at all the devices, all the nodes on this system, and the continuity, if they're communicating with each other. If this system is showing there's 100% communication, in the event that we have one of these panels disconnected, it will show you an X, and the loop will continue with the exception of that one panel that's offline. So this is the way you'll see if your system is, the integrity of the system, and everything is connected and talking. And the last one is the alarm list. The alarm list basically is anything that the fire alarm panel reports, it will send a copy to this panel and will show you on the display. Again, it's easier for the attendant to just hit on the event and get all the information that he needs on this one point. Okay, basically that's what the TSW does. It's nothing but a continuation of the first fire alarm panel. It gathers all the information from all the nodes on site. In this case, I believe it's like 17 nodes. How many nodes? 17 nodes or so. And this baby, all it does is communicate with all of them, gathers all the information at one point, and allows you to communicate this to whoever is going to be taking care of those troubles or alarm conditions from one single point. Okay? This concludes my introduction to TSW here at South Beach. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now.